I am thrilled with today's guest. She's a good friend of mine, Molly Jong-Fast. She's a lot of things. She's a contributing writer at Vanity Fair, political analyst at MSNBC, host of the podcast Fast Politics with Molly Jong-Fast, and she's the author of the runaway New York Times bestseller, How to Lose Your Mother, a Daughter's Memoir. How are you, kid?
I'm good. How are you?
So I want to talk about I want to talk some current events, and obviously we're going to sell some books today, okay?
Oh, excellent.
Let's do a little news first, because the book is amazing. It is a book of passion. It's all about this very turbulent year of your life, 2023, where your husband's diagnosed with cancer. Your mom, you have to put your mom, the famous Erica Jung, there's the book right there. In a nursing home along with your stepfather, and still taking care of your kids, and it just there's a lot that goes on. But we're gonna first let's get to the brutalness of what's going on in the world. What was your reaction this weekend? I saw you posted something about all the protests, 5 million people out there. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, so I actually wrote my column for Vanity Fair on that this weekend. It may be as many, it may be more than 5 million. Look, there's a number you get to, a percentage of the population that is protesting, and when you get to that number, it is like a seismic shift. So it may be as many as 1% of all Americans protested.
That's amazing when you think about it. If that's possible, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a humongous number, because what it means is that it's one thing to vote. It's one thing to give $20 to Act Blue, but to get up and get ready and go out and march is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it speaks to a different level of engagement. So I think it's it's funny. I got into this thing in the column about sort of meditative question about whether the grown-ups in the room who thought they were saving American democracy the first time were almost maybe enabling Trumpism in a way. Like, the person who was being helped most by the grown-ups in the room was actually Trump.
Well, when you say grown-ups in the room?
So, like, all the people who were like, I found this thing on Trump's desk and I removed it so he couldn't.
I see what you're saying.
Do this or do that. Those people always sort of made themselves out to be the kind of reason why American democracy survived.
Right.
But there's an argument to be made that they actually, more than enabling democracy, they were just enabling Trump and Trumpism.
Yeah. Speaking of democracy, I feel a little better about things than I did in November. I was terrified that this guy's not leaving office. How do you feel about that? Because that's everything. We'll get through everything unless it comes down to the fact that he's going to attempt to not leave office or attempt to get in the way with the midterms. That's everything. We could get through everything else. How do you feel about that?
I think the good news is they're just not that good at this. So there's this, the really competent people don't want to serve because they saw Trump 1.0 and they're worried, they want to go on to have long careers. So that's the good news, right? Like, there aren't super competent people. There are some competent people. I think the other thing was when Trump was working in tandem with Elon, you had unlimited money and this sort of promise of unlimited technology. You don't have that anymore. So, Elon may come back to Trump world. Do you think he comes back? Do you think Trump takes him back?
I think it's going to be a little bit. I don't think it's going to be what it was. I think they'll make I think it's in both of their best interests to have a peace. Elon's already put a fig leaf out. Not a fig leaf. What do you call it? When you put
olive branch.
An olive branch. Olive branch out. Trump kind of, didn't do much with it. So I don't think it will be what it was. I think that was the ones, and that was a scary dynamic. Yeah. So I agree with you. We're in a better place without that. What is your biggest surprise about this presidency at this point? We're 5 months into it. Because there was so much prognostication going on. I'm just curious your thoughts about, now we're into it. This surprises me, or nothing surprises you.
I think it's been a little worse than I thought. Like, I don't think I thought he would put RFK in. Like, the RFK stuff could have implications
Mind-blowing
for all of
implications.
us
Yeah.
forever. What?
Mind-blowing implications. Yes.
Yeah. So the RFK stuff, that I don't think I thought he would. Like, there's a vaccine panel. RFK is about to suggest to do away with some amount of childhood vaccinations. Like, that stuff is bonkers. And, that could be hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of deaths of children, elderly people. That stuff, I did not think he would do that, because I thought, why do it? It doesn't make any sense. Like, there's certain stuff that he does that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like just a dumb, useless, pointless, like, why put him there? That I think is really scary. I also, like, I think that it's a little bit worse than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it would be bad, but like, the other thing is, like, Hegseth is clearly a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the brink of some kind of real problem with Iran and Israel. Like, it's the time to put in someone who knows what they're doing.
What do you think Israel should finish the job?
I think whatever is going to get a non-nuclear Iran. Well, I just, and I don't know what that is.
The only way you have a non-nuclear Iran is you take out that last nuclear facility, and that's it. This is a moment in time. I think this is a history-changing moment in time where they finished the job. They've been all of the terrorist groups are their proxies. This is where all the bad stuff starts. You've got a new Syria now. You've got the other Arab countries wanting this to happen. Finish the job. Okay.
Well, I just don't know if Netanyahu is a good faith actor or if he's just trying to stay in office.
By the way, the Gaza discussion is a different discussion.
No, but it's not a Gaza discussion. It's a, like, obviously, it's like,
even if it is self-motivated, I don't give a fuck at this point. I care about what's right, and I think the whole world changes. We need a regime change. Nothing changes without that.
Oh, I think I think you have an administration that can barely pass its one piece of legislation, and they're going to do regime change in Iran. I mean, look, the last time we'll be greeted as liberators. I mean, this guy's been talking about taking over Canada. Now you want him to do regime change. Even competent Republican governments, like, and I mean competent in quotes, but like W, who had like real people who actually knew how to do stuff and weren't just on television. Regime change is, as a country, we have yet to ever do regime change. Like, we just got out of Afghanistan, right? We're deporting the translators from Afghanistan. Like, shouldn't we just do one regime change at a time?
I just think if you clean up Iran, and it's just that it's the centerpiece for all that is dastardly in the Middle East. So whatever that means. You're not going to.
Except that it would be great, and I would love if we cleaned up the environment. But we do have such a terrible record. I just read this incredible biography of William F. Buckley by Sam Tenenhouse. It's just genius. And in it, there's all this stuff about how Buckley was basically a CIA agent, and they just regime changed their way through South America, and it was a disaster at every point. And now we have a southern border. The southern border is from, if you want to talk about why we have a problem with the southern border, it's because Republicans destabilized that whole part of the country, part of the continent. So I think it's a loser. I mean, look, I wish that our government were good at these kind of things, but it's also, by the way, Trump did run on no more foreign wars. Yeah. That was the one thing.
Well, that's why the Bannons and the Tucker Carlsons are having a shit fit,
Yeah. And also because they're anti-Semitic. Some of these people are very anti-Semitic. Yes. I mean, we've got, these guys.
It's pretty clear. Yeah. Tucker Carlson with some of the characters that he's associated himself with. Last question, then we're going to get to the book. everybody's talking about the Democrats and messaging. And one thing I think they have a simple message going forward. The one mistake they made last time is to just point at Trump and say, he's a bad guy, he's doing this. You got to bring it back. There's got to be a part B to that. So to me, I take a page from a really smart kind of advertising anecdote was historically, they were trying to get kids to stop smoking cigarettes, and they'd always make it about, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. That message didn't go through. The first message that resonated was they said, you know what? The cigarette companies are trying to trick you. You know, they're faking you out. That got through. It's got to be the same thing as he's getting rich, you're getting poorer. He's getting rich, he's taking your Medicaid away. It's got to be the both sides of that coin. You can no longer just rest on, Trump's doing this, and he's doing this, he's doing crypto, and he's making parades. It's got to be, and how does that negatively affect you, voter? That's what we missed the last time.
Yeah, I mean, I think nothing broke through. I think if a Democrat wants to win, they have to be on social media, do their own tweets, go on every show, every interview, everything, do 100 sprays a day, do all the fucking stuff. It doesn't matter what your catchphrase is. If you're not everywhere, you don't exist. And
there has to be, I think the American consumer has gotten a taste of, I think, disruption. I think that I think a typical politician, it's going to be very difficult. There's got to be something, what I call a charismatic disruption. And that's obviously what Trump was.
Yeah. I mean, look, there is no room for people remember election day 2024, you had people Googling, did Biden drop out?
Yeah.
The people heard Joe Rogan. They were not reading the editorial page.
Yes, no.
They were not watching the evening news. So if you are not in those spaces, you do not exist. It doesn't even matter what your catchphrase is.
It's simple math. MSNBC gets 1 million viewers a night, and Joe Rogan gets 50 million viewers. I can do that math. It's not that complicated.
Right.
So last question about the Dems. You and I think, disagree on this a little bit. I'm a extreme centrist, and I believe there's a danger. I think AOC, she's a very gifted politician, but I think that as a big face of the party, literally and figuratively, is a losing proposition. I'm not making a moral judgment here. I'm making a pure strategic discussion. Closest to the center wins. Do you disagree with that or agree with that?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it's an ideological question. I don't think people vote ideologically. I don't think people give a... Can I curse?
You please do.
A fuck about policy. I wish they gave a fuck about policy, because there's a BBB that's...
But what I'm saying is, I'm doing a branding thing. The average person who doesn't like an AOC doesn't know what she stands for, but she's a far lefty. She's a socialist. She's an extremist.
It doesn't... Here's the thing. It's not ideological. If you have someone who you think that because you're in the business.
Right.
Maybe I think that because I'm in the business. I mean, I don't think that, but it doesn't matter. What the question is, if you have a candidate who can break through, and again, you're going to have a fulsome primary process, and then hopefully that candidate will engage with media and social media the way Trump engages and not the way any other Democrat engages. Because if they engage the way Democrats do, they will lose again. Like what we saw, it wasn't about Harris's talent. It wasn't about Biden's oldness. It was about the fact that these people did not engage. The mainstream media, the social media, they didn't do shit. Yeah. And the thing is, if you don't engage, you don't exist. So it won't matter what you say because no one will know.
I hear you. Let's sell some books. How to Lose Your Mother, as I said, New York Times bestseller. A gut-wrenching book. There's one line in the book that kind of sums it up. And this is you talking about your mother, Erica Jong. I know she loved me, but I also know she never really seemed particularly interested in me. Is that kind of the theme that kind of was sprung into everything?
Actually, believe it or not, the book is really about this year of what happens when everything just goes wrong and how to kind of get yourself through it.
But isn't that the essence, that dynamic between you and your mother, the essence of what formed you, what formed your initial addiction, you're all kind of who you are, that's been the driving thing. And that leads us to 2023.
I mean, I would say I think that my story with my mother was that we just I don't know. I mean, not, I think that we had a complicated relationship, but I think it's pretty common. Like, every time I do readings or I talk to people about the book, we don't have. I mean, I think why people like this book is because it's very honest about my relationship with my
It's very
mother.
relatable.
But
Yeah.
right, but I don't think people. I think everybody has problems with their parents.
Yeah.
I think I think what's so tough is that we're meant to feel like we're not supposed to, that we're supposed to just sort of lionize our parents, and the reality is it's a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Let's go back to you as a teenager. Your mom writes a book that sells 20 million copies. She's a kind of a literary icon, more really falls into pop culture, that, is really a
Yeah.
part of it. So what you looking up? What are you thinking?
I mean, so I think what happened was, so I never knew her when she wasn't famous. So when I she became less famous as I got older, and I think it was hard for her. I think being famous is I've talked about this a lot, but like being famous is the closest thing we have in American life to magic,
Mhm.
right? It changes everything. It changes the way you engage with the world. It changes the way the world engages with
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
It's a really powerful. It's a very powerful. I don't want to say tool because it's not
No,
a
I
tool.
look. You
It's
and I have a very, I call it high awareness. We're well known figures. I wouldn't call us, like famous, but we're certainly well known, and it does change things. It does. The world does treat you differently, and you're meeting people all the time who, quote unquote, know you, who you don't know. Because they know you, they recognize you from TV, and you, if you lose sight of it, the whiff of it can take you in very strange directions.
and bad directions too. I mean, I would. I wonder. So there are people whose entire. I mean, there are many people. It's a common trope. Whose entire lives are unraveled by fame.
And you talk about also and you just mentioned this, how when fame is slipping away from you, there's a sadness and desperation to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very. I think it's a very. I think it's a very kind of what you see. I mean, it's funny because it's like, not to go back to Trumpism, but like that after he was out of office. Do you remember that when the helicopter left, you had the kids on the tarmac crying?
I don't remember.
But the Trump kids were all
No.
on the tarmac crying, and it was like because there was so you could just it was just he had lost his station.
Yeah.
And Trump got it back. I mean, probably one of the most consequential elections, certainly in. Yeah, I mean, it's just a very a moment that we found ourselves in that had a lot to do with fame and power.
Talk to me about the year that the book is about, and basically just kind of go through what you were going through.
So I had. So what was my life like? I mean, I in January, my husband went to the hospital and he found a tumor on his pancreas. And then after that, he we I had a really good friend whose mother had died of pancreatic cancer, and she got him into Sloan Kettering. And then from Sloan Kettering, we found out that it wasn't and then he had to have surgery, and then my stepfather had dementia and he kept falling, so I had to put them in this nursing home. And then it just was like at every point it was just a complete shit show at every moment. It just a cascade of shit showism.
So what you're going through it, and are you feeling bad for yourself? Are you what's the tools? What did you want
uh
readers to take away from this?
I wanted it was like very tough, and I wanted people to see that you could get through it. I had a few tricks that were very helpful, but I also just like it was like a very sort of midlife crisisy moment in a lot of ways. Like I was sort of trying to figure out, that I just had a lot of feelings, bad feelings, and I started writing about it. I saw how it could help people. Like I saw that there was a lot to relate to. I also saw that there was, that these were these universal things. I mean, almost a third of all Americans will get cancer.
It's amazing.
Those are crazy
It's a crazy
numbers.
number.
And yeah, and then we have, we have these parents who are getting older or dying. And I just felt like there was a lot to be said there that could be very helpful and could connect with people, and that they could read it and know they're not alone. And people who read the book, I mean, there are a bunch of people who read the book already, and they say, even though it's only been out for 2 weeks, they
With
say,
rave reviews, I might add.
yes,
Yes.
which has been really cool.
That's got to
But
feel good.
yeah. Oh, it feels great. But they say, they say this thing, which is like, they just feel a little better about their relationship with their parents. I had a lot of regret with my mom, things that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do, or just because I just had to triage so much of the situation because everybody was sick. And what I want people to read this book and to feel better, to not feel bad, to feel a little better about their relationships with their parents, about what happened.
It's so difficult being a caretaker of aging and dying and sick
Yeah.
parents, particularly in your case when you felt that maybe you didn't get the care that you were supposed to get.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Um, and so I really wanted to connect on that.
And so talk to me about basically now you've lost your stepfather, your mom's still in a nursing home. What's her state right now?
She's okay. It was, I called her to say it was on the bestseller. All writers care about is good reviews and being on the bestseller list.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
Right. So I said, Mom, we're on the bestseller list. That's what I said. And, she didn't totally get it. Like, I don't think she completely got it, which made me sad. But, it's kind of like we don't need that. They don't have to be what we want them to be. They don't have to.
And we don't have to be what they want us to be.
We won't be.
Yeah.
But so it made me sad, but I also saw that was how it was going to be.
Was there one moment where you just said, "The sky is falling. I can't do this anymore"? I mean, where everything was coming together.
Yeah, I mean, there's no choices. I mean, my husband and I used to say to each other, like, the only way through is through, right? Or no, you can't be like, no, I'm just not gonna like go to your surgery. So I mean, I think you kind of disassociate the right amount. There were a lot of nights I went to bed at 8 o'clock because I just couldn't take it. I just need to go to sleep. There were times when I got a lot of sleep that year, like a lot. And I had a lot of ice cream for dinner. I just did the best I could. And I mean, why? I mean, I think people like this book because it's written well. I care about prose, but it's also um it's also it's like I care about prose, it's written well, but it's also I wanted people to know that you can do it. I've been through it. There's a way to do it, and that's what I wanted, was that kind of connection.
What's
with
been the
reader.
most proud moment that somebody has come up to you and talked to you something about the book and how they connected with it? Has there been one particular moment where you just got, I'm glad I wrote this fucking book just for that?
Yeah, Terry Gross was pretty good. Being on Terry Gross and having her really like the book was pretty good because she's pretty cool.
Sure.
Fresh air, Terry Gross.
Sure.
The other thing was like in Chicago, Peter Sagal, who's Wait, Don't Tell Me, another NPR guy, interviewed me, and he was saying, this book is really honest. Most books aren't that honest. Most people just if they do a book that's really honest, they do it as a novel and not as a memoir. And it made me. I hadn't thought the book was so honest, but then I was like, whoa, maybe I made a huge. I definitely like the first when it was first out, right before it came out, I was like, did I just make an enormous mistake? Like I had a minute of like,
what do you mean? What would a mistake have been? Just bearing too much dirty laundry?
Yeah. And also like I could have written, there were so many people who, like I could have just written like a politics book like Orange Man Bad,
Yeah, right.
or something like that. And so I I I was like, am I, this is like kind of a weird move. I mean, I think it was the right move, but it was a little bit weird.
It's
So
it's all off brand for what you're doing right now.
right. And like the other thing was, so many people know me as me and not as Erica Jong's daughter. Like I was like, did I just like
undo everything I've done, everything that's been the driving force of my life? That's interesting. That's interesting.
Right before it came out, I was like, oh shit, I just did a terrible.
I spent my entire life not to be her daughter and to be Molly, and I just fucked up.
Yeah. So I had that now I don't feel like that, because now I feel like the book is doing really well and it was worth it and it was the right thing and it's helping people. But I did have a few minutes of like, ooh, maybe I made a huge mistake. It's hard. Adulthood is very tough.
It is fucking tough. And you look, in so many ways we're blessed as we're sitting here talking on a podcast and, just doing that. But there's no playbook for it. And there's no playbook for the stuff that you went through. They don't, particularly the aging and dying parents. I've lost my mother last year and my dad 13 years ago. And there's no playbook for that. There is no playbook when they're sick.
And it's also like everyone goes through it.
Yeah.
Like everyone goes through it. Like there's not, unless you die first, which is worse.
Yes.
You go through it and it's just it's tough to figure out. It's not entirely clear what, you're supposed to do. What's good being are you an only child?
No, I have a sister.
Okay. So it's not entirely clear how you're supposed to handle it and what is good being a child and what is not. I find it very tough. I thought it was very tough. And I also think like people don't write that much about it, which is strange to me because it's not fun. It's not fun to write about. Maybe I found it interesting to write about, but like, it's not, we don't like to talk about getting older and, but I think it's worthy. It's very much a worthy subject.
The book, as you said, everybody can relate to. If you've got aging parents, if you've grown up with the challenges that we all grew up with our parents, it's honest, it's raw. The book is How to Lose Your Mother. Author is Molly Jong-Fast, my good friend. I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking time, kid.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me, Donny. That was great.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.